Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be checking out the Cycle Frontier. This game is currently going through beta testing, and it's a new overhauled version of what was originally the Cycle. This was a game that came out a couple years ago and was kind of basically like a battle royale with a few extra things. It was a PvEvP battle royale where you had like quests and various objectives that you had to do. And it was quite a different game than what this new iteration, Cycle Frontier, is today. So the current version is fundamentally a session-based PvPvE survival game. So it all starts out with you picking a loadout for your character, what sort of equipment and weapons are you going to bring with you, and then you drop onto one of two currently available maps, and you go around looking for stuff. You go around searching for various kinds of loot or trying to complete objectives, do quests that you can turn in for currency and rewards, and you do all of that while trying to survive and extract, leaving the map, taking your stuff with you, and not dying in the process. Now, to get in your way, there's a couple of different threats. There's the PvE side of things. Various types of alien creatures. There are like these small, fast swarmers. There are these spitting creatures and these massive lumbering marauders. And there's various iterations of those as well. But then there's also the PvP threat. There's other players on the map with you, and they, at any point, if they come across you, could kill you and take all of your stuff, all of the equipment that you brought with you in the first place, and then anything you found while you were landing and searching on the planet, or vice versa. You can do the same thing to other people. You can take them out and take everything that they have. So the game is currently in beta testing, and it is scheduled to release at some point later this year. I've heard sooner than later, although nothing official has been announced. And this is basically what I've been playing over the course of the past week. I found myself pleasantly surprised. I didn't really know what to expect going into the game, but now I've clocked around 40 hours and just have overall really enjoyed the whole process, the gameplay loop, and the structure of things. Now, the most common comparison that this game gets is to Tarkov. That seems to be the closest equivalent in terms of what the Cycle Frontier is. I personally don't have a lot of experience with Tarkov, but I have really enjoyed what I've played of the Cycle Frontier, and I just want to show you a bit of gameplay and talk with you a bit about the experience. So we're going to take a look at a couple of different games, and I want to start off with a solo game. I gotta say too, there's quite a big difference in how this game feels and plays when you're going from solos and duos. I've done a mix of both. I have done predominantly solo, and I actually like them both for different reasons. The thing with solo is that it's much more of a sneaky survival game. You have to really focus on stealth, especially in the current environment where solos are right in the mix with people who are playing in squads. I will regularly come across teams of 2 and 3 while I'm playing by myself, which I've got some gripes with. I actually don't really like that they currently do it for a lot of reasons. There's enough balancing issues as is when it comes to how the loot works in this game. Essentially, the different items of different rarities can have a severe impact on your performance in PvP. So if you have a higher tier shield, you're going to be a lot tankier, and if you have a higher tier weapon, you're going to kill people a lot easier. And that in and of itself, I feel like, is enough imbalance that we don't need to do a numerical imbalance between players. But I don't want to focus on that for the start. We'll touch on some of my concerns or the things that I would like to see changed later on in the video. Now let's just take a look at the gameplay. So we start off, you drop in at a random spot. You don't get to pick anywhere. You'll just come somewhere on the map here. You'll drop in and then have to kind of make your decision in terms of what you want to do next based on your location. So there's a variety of quests that you'll have that you can complete. Go ahead and kill creatures at this location, or do a certain objective at this location, or bring back certain types of resources, and the different types of resources will spawn at different spots. So there'll be, for example, like water mushrooms that will spawn predominantly in watery areas. You can find them like in the swamp and in the lake area. There'll be certain objects that you're more likely to get in cabinets, and you can find a lot of those in like the vaccine lab, for example, or the waterfall laboratory. It just is some examples, but yeah, you'll have different objectives that you'll want to go out and do. They're just quests that you go out on for the game's faction system. But then also, just getting stuff, because anything that you collect is going to be useful for one reason or another. Some items you'll need for the quest that I just mentioned. You'll need items for a progression system that the game has back at the home base. And then also you need the items for the crafting system. If you want to craft yourself some weapons, some armor, some consumables, there are specific items you need for that. So the long and the short is, though, you're dropping in with the goal of getting things done or collecting stuff and then trying to survive and make your way out, because if you die, you lose almost everything you have. There is a little safe pocket where you'll take anything that you put in there with you, but it's got a very, very low weight limit, so you can really only carry so much. A lot of the times it'll be some of the old currency that you can transfer into new currency, and then some smaller items that don't weigh a lot, because yeah, that's about all you can fit in there. So every single time you drop in, that's the goal. And then whatever you're going for, whatever objective or items you're looking for, you'll get it, and then you'll call your way out. Now, I happen to call in an evac ship very early in this session because I didn't like where I dropped. I didn't like how it was going. I didn't like all the noise that got made right away as I ran into those creatures. And you saw a handful of the creature types in this game. There's there's the threat of PvE creatures, but then it's just the fact that engaging with them ends up drawing attention to yourself. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna leave now. And you notice me, I threw what was called an audio decoy, and there's a second one. That's basically just gonna create some faux gunfire. They say that it's done in a way that players should not be able to tell that it's fake. I mean, obviously if they see you throw that grenade and then they hear that, that'll be a dead giveaway, but just in general, it's supposed to trick players. And it looks like it worked because I happened to draw on this guy who had blue armor on, which is significantly better than the white armor that I'm wearing. But because I got the jump on him, I was actually able to take him out. And that's kind of one of the things, I do feel like there are some issues with how the loot balancing in this game works, but it's not impossible, especially in one-on-one situations. And I was able to take that person out who had blue armor with my basic white rifle that I had here. So it's certainly possible. And then now the situation is, my extraction ship just left, but it's not a big deal because I was more focused on the fight. Now the situation is I could pick up his stuff, right? Now the reason I'm not moving quite yet is because that gunfight just happened. I'm now thinking someone else might have heard that and make their way over, but also I had heard some shuffling around. And that's another big thing in this game that you're not really going to get in a commentated video like this. The auditory is super important. I have not had to play a game with the sound cranked up as loudly as I have played this game ever before, but that's because it's really so vital. All the little footsteps, the shuffling around, there's distinct sounds for everything, and anyone within a decent range around you will be able to hear what you do and vice versa. So it makes it so that you will know when someone's around you, unless they're completely standing still. Even if they aim down sights, you will know. If they heal, you will know. And I heard somebody, and lo and behold, there you go. As I was looting and trying to get all this great gear that this guy had, nope. I got shot, and I was like, it's not worth it. I couldn't even see the guy who shot me, so I just decided to book it and move out and heal up. But then, as luck would have it, while I'm sitting here healing, I hear someone else coming. There are the footsteps. I just sit here, do this. So this game, what's funny though is that I wanted to show you this game because I think it does do a good job of showcasing a little bit of the patience that you need to have while you're playing this solo. Like there was a couple of long stretches within this few minutes of gameplay where I was just standing still. But you really, especially solo, you really kind of have to. It's really necessary because of the advantage that it gives. So it's weird because being patient and going slow is important, but it's definitely not a game, at least in my experience, it's not a game where you can just like sit and camp one spot forever and get anything done. You can do that. You can just sit in one spot, but it doesn't give you a huge advantage because literally the second that you move, anyone around you will be able to hear you, even if you're just crouch walking. Even crouch walking like I'm doing here, just shuffling around in this grass by this rock. Even that makes enough noise for people to hear. So it's pretty crazy. It really, and then if you're just standing still, you're not getting anything done. And you know, obviously, unless you kill someone and just take their stuff. So there's a system of calling in evac ships where essentially there are only set locations that you yourself can call in. When you land, there will be 2 spots that you're able to call in a ship yourself. But something else you can do is just go in a ship that someone else has called. And that's actually what I'm gonna do here. I'm gonna wait till the very last minute. Someone called in the ship, and I'm just gonna run in and join them. And I got in right before the evacuation took place. So there you go. Okay, so the next game that we're gonna take a look at is actually going to be a duo match. And I wanted to show you these in conjunction because it almost feels like a different game in duos. There is still the requirement of paying attention to your surroundings, but in general, I feel like you can be a bit more haphazard with what you're doing most of the time. When I'm playing solo, most of the time, I'm focused on listening and not getting spotted. When I'm playing in duos, most of the time I'm focused on doing whatever my task is. Whatever we're going for, whether we're just looting to try to get as much items as possible, fill up our bags with as much high value stuff as possible and extract so that we can turn it in for whatever money, or we can use them to craft stuff, whatever the reason we're getting stuff is. We're doing that, or we're sprinting straight to our quests. Now, that said, as soon as we have any indication that someone's around, then we go into the more trying to be quiet mode. And what we're wanting to do here, I believe, is my friend needed a quest to hunt those like bug tick creatures. They're kind of like banelings. And so since we dropped in the swamp region, that's just where the game put us, we were just gonna go around and pick some of that stuff off. And I always go up into this particular spot because it's just a really good location to get some of these items, like the fabric stuff that I picked up, which I needed for quests. You saw pop up in the left-hand corner. You'll get a little tracker. Anytime you make progress on an item, see there's another one just pops up just like there. So while we're doing this though, very soon we realize that there is another squad. Now, they could have just been heading in this direction. They could have just been here by accident, or they could have seen our smoke trails as we drop in, because anytime players drop in, you can actually see there's like a trail following their pods onto the ground. So sometimes there will be people who would just run after those pods because they just want to try to get some kills and get some loot off of other players, you know, because that's the thing. You have the option of going around looting yourself, or you can try to just take out people and loot. And that could have been what we don't really know. I don't really know why they were here, but I noticed these people here. They were throwing grenades. And then we get in a nice early game fight. It's not actually always the case that you get in combat this early. It's a decent sized map, and the player count's somewhere around 15 to 20. So not exactly huge, but we get in a battle here. This was actually right after I had picked up my blue armor, but also a blue weapon. And yeah, it made a big difference. I got lit up here, so I went back around the corner to heal a bit. And my friend finished off the first person I was engaging with, but then we got third-partied, and my friend died. And just like that, like, things can go south. So at this point, you know, you have the decision. It's like, okay, so I don't know how many people there are. It could just be one person. It could also be a squad. And then even if it is just one person, we just had a gunfight, and then my friend just got shot. So that whole process might attract some more people. And so this is part of that tug of war of risk versus reward, because the stakes are so high. Because besides your safe pocket, and there's a system of insurance, but for the most part, besides what's in your safe pocket, you could just lose everything that you have on you. Most of the time you do lose everything that you have on you. So it's just this whole balance, and that's the general flow of this game. That's the general pacing and back and forth and decision making. And it's feels really good when you're successful and you manage to have a great run and you extract with stuff, you get a bunch of loot, or you get in some fights and someone had some really good items on, and then you just take them and you run away. Or sometimes you drop in and you just get smoked. Like that guy. I think that's the guy that I was just shooting with. This was actually kind of a crazy match. There was a lot going on, and now there's multiple bodies for me to try to go around loot. So that guy right there, my friend who had some stuff on him, plus the weapons, and I think I wanted to bring him. Well, I think I wanted to bring him back his green armor, as well as the scrapper, which is this nice early game SMG that's pretty strong. So now I'm just having to sort through my bag and figure out what I want. But then there's also the two bodies of those people that we fought at the very, very beginning. And this is probably one of the more action-packed games early on that I've had in the coming up on 40 hours that I've played of this beta. There was just a lot of fights super early, and it's not always like this. A lot of times there'll be matches where I will drop in and I will spend the whole match looting, and I might hear some gunfights in the distance, but don't risk going for those engagements, and I will not see anybody the whole fight. If I had to put a number to it, I would probably say it's around 50-50. Around half of the time, I won't be getting in engagements, and the loots will just be currency loots. And honestly, those feel like great runs most of the time because I got out safely. I got stuff that I needed and I got out safely. Obviously, there's more of a thrill when you engage in PvP, and it's fun when there's a lot going on, but it's only fun for the people who make it out. And all these, it was only fun for me. And these 1, 2, 3, 4 other people, my friend included, these 3 enemies and my friend, not fun for those 4 people because all their stuff is gone now. Now again, there is like this insurance system. You can spend a rare currency to insure items, which means if nobody loots them and extracts with it, you'll get it back eventually after a time period. But if someone does loot it, you'll get some currency back as a replacement. But that doesn't always matter, because if you crafted an item, it's not just currency. You need all the stuff that you crafted it with, and so you might have to refarm those resources. So the insurance doesn't always really pay off, basically, if someone takes your item and extracts with it. And of course, as fate would have it, after all of this combat early on, I then hear a squad. There's 2. One person was just behind me, and then this guy's right here. And at this point, I was just like, I am really pushing my luck. And I absolutely need to get out of here, because I know that there's at least one more person in this area. And yeah, I'd like to reiterate, this is easily, hands down, one of the busiest games that I've ever had in terms of PvP. It is definitely not always like this at all. So now basically for the rest of the time, because I feel like I've already pushed my luck with everything that's happened, and I'm just, taking any more chances and rolling the dice any more times, I feel like won't go in my favor. So I spend the rest of the time, which is like another 5 minutes or so, making my way to the extraction point on the map and trying to get out. And I did. I managed to get out safely. And all in all, this turned out to be a great run for me. But as I said, and as you saw, not a great run for all those other people. And it is kind of that whole process. It is that whole back and forth that is what is like painful, but also really exhilarating about this game. and what I've really enjoyed about it. Okay, so to wrap things up here, let me touch on a couple of the aspects of this game that I really like. I would say a general, as I've mentioned a couple of times already in this video, the overall loop I find very satisfying. Just the entire process of preparing your character, deciding what you're going to bring with you and what your objectives are before you go and land on the planet, and then the whole process of landing and trying to loot, trying to find resources, trying to complete quests, and having to deal with the PvE and PvP threats in the process, and trying to get out and survive. And that whole threat of not only the PvE, but especially the PvP and running into other players adds a really fun tension to the game. There's also various things that we didn't even showcase in the gameplay segment of the video. There are all sorts of in-game events. There are puzzles where you have to get these objects and find them and then put them in a place to unlock a door. There are these thunder showers that can show up, and they're going to stop anyone from extracting for a duration of time. And they also provide access to higher rarity resources. There are also these meteor showers that can call in, and they'll rain down super valuable resources that you can go harvest, but also likely to be highly contested because everyone on the map is going to see the meteor showers coming in and will likely want what comes from them. And then just the entire immersion of the whole experience with this heavy focus on the audio, really having to pay close attention to the sounds around you to be aware of any other potential dangers, enemy players that might be nearby. Now, the whole experience isn't without some of its cons and frustrations and things that I personally would like to see changed. For one, I think going in solo is a real massive disadvantage when you're grouped against squads. A lot of the times when I'm playing solo, I will run into teams of 2 and teams of 3, and I really do feel like there should be separate queues for each of them. This seems to be a big debate in this game's community. People say that the danger of coming across a team should be there because it adds a sense of danger. There's already a sense of danger coming across one other person, especially when it comes to dealing with gear balancing. There's a good chance that, well, one person is going to die out of any engagement between 2 people. So the idea that we need to have solo players play against teams of 2 and 3, adding gear balance on top of that, it is just way too much of a disadvantage, and really only the best of the best players are going to stand a chance. You're not going to beat a team of 3 if they are even relatively competent, unless you're like one of the 0.01% FPS players in the world. Most people are just, when you're outnumbered, you're just dead. So I think they really should separate solo and squad queue personally. And then also gear balancing. You know, I understand wanting to have weight behind the process of acquiring gear and have it matter. If you have a piece of purple armor, you're going to be much tankier than someone who has a piece of white armor. And same thing with the weapons. If you have a purple weapon or an orange legendary weapon, you're going to kill things way quicker than if someone who has the common weapons, the white weapons. And while I appreciate wanting that to be in the game, it feels a little overtuned right now to the matter of, like, I found myself when I've gone into games early on, especially when I first started playing and I only had the white base level gear, anyone with a purple weapon would literally kill me in under a second. And it'd be one thing if these were like sniper headshots, like great aim, bro. People killing me in half of a second with a assault rifle, it just feels so bad, especially after doing a really long run. I don't feel like I got outplayed. I feel like I got outgeared. And maybe that's just part of what they want this game to be, but I feel like it's really rough in the way it's currently set. And going multiple games in the row, dying and losing all of your stuff to people with purple weapons and purple armor. I mean, there's been several times where I've just been like, okay, I might be done with this game. But there are enough positives to it that I have stuck around, because overall I do really enjoy it, despite all of these frustrations that I've just mentioned, despite solos going in versus squads, and despite the gear balance. I will say though, one point of frustration that I will never get over is hackers. Early on, there does seem to be an issue. Now, I don't know if that will change with release. Hopefully they're doing a good job of tracking these things down with the current anti-cheat that they have implemented, though it does seem like, I mean, I personally have run into hackers in some of the games that I've played pretty clearly. There have been situations where I've just unloaded multiple clips into a player, and in this end game recap, it said that I did over 600 damage to them, and they didn't die. So clearly something was going on. My anecdotal experience aside, though, there's been plenty of proof out there and complaints within the community that hackers are currently a big issue, and that is something they absolutely need to iron out before launch, because boy, all of these other complaints about like getting outgeared or getting outnumbered against squads, those are one thing, but just dying and losing all of your stuff to a hacker, that is a level of frustration that will make people quit the game. Overall though, with all of that said, I have really enjoyed playing the Cycle Frontier. This has been a really pleasant surprise. I wasn't sure what to expect when I first jumped in. I thought maybe I'll play it for a day or two and make some general early impressions, but I just kept wanting to play that whole loop. Equipping, dropping, looting, hiding, or fighting, and then trying to extract. The tension that comes with that whole experience, it's just awesome. And you come away from a big win feeling absolutely great. I got a ton of resources, I got a ton of currency, I got this new piece of gear or this new weapon, but also losing all of your stuff feels really rough. And when that's done properly and there's a balance where sometimes you get big wins and sometimes you lose, the whole experience just is very rewarding. Those swings are really enjoyable to take process in, and it makes you want to go back again and again to try to get those big wins and to try to avoid those big loses. My best suggestion would be to try to remove the parts where losing feels unfair or cheap, like I was just outgeared or I was just outnumbered. But that's just a personal suggestion. And with that, guys, we'll wrap up this video. Thank you for joining me to check out a bit of the Cycle Frontier. Hope you enjoyed this showcase and discussion. Let me know what you think in the comments below. As always, appreciate your support. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.